Impact Wrestling, formerly known as TNA, used to be the largest wrestling promotion in the world after WWE. Early on in the 2000s, it grew to a national level, even getting television deals abroad. It signed big names and made people of their own on their brand, who went on to become big things later in their careers. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are only two of the names who attracted attention there. As they grew in size, they began to sign more and more former WWE talent, becoming quite a top-heavy roster. The likes of Hulk Hogan, Scott Steiner, Booker T, the Dudley Boys, Kurt Angle, the Hardy Boys, Mick Foley, Ric Flair, they all worked there at one point in their career. Add to that the one person who had not yet signed with WWE after leaving WCW, Sting, you have one hell of a roster. Unfortunately for them, while their roster was amazing and the booking was well done, they allowed talent like Hulk Hogan to have a bigger say in creative. This led to their booking and storylines going down the drain far below what was expected of them. Soon they were losing money and fast. This, alongside poor management, saw many wrestlers leave the sinking ship. The promotion went through a bad period where it looked as though there was a little hope left for them, with rumors of the company being sold to WWE becoming a regular occurrence. However, this again changed as Anthem bought out the company and repackaged it, making it a better show than it was before. Now Impact Wrestling may not be as big as it once was, competing with ROH and New Japan for the second position, but it is picking up momentum with a smaller roster and better looking once again. My name is John, and in this video we will talk about 10 things in which Impact Wrestling does better than WWE. At one point in time, Impact Wrestling was filled to the brim with stars who had been former WWE talent who no longer had what it took to stay in the company due to their advanced years. Much like WCW had done years before, Impact was able to snatch up stars in the form of Hulk Hogan, the Dudley Boys, Mick Foley, and Ric Flair to name a few, but they had a tendency to depend on the big names to draw for their shows. And as time would go on, instead of depending only on the big names, they have taken up some of the hottest stars on the independent promotions to feature on their cards on a regular basis. On the other hand, WWE is still heavily dependent on the nostalgia factor created by returning stars and part-timers like John Cena, The Undertaker, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar. From that point of view, Impact is head and shoulders above WWE. One of the major problems that WWE faces on a regular basis is that their television programming in a week is too long. They have so many hours of TV programming that it's hard to keep up with all of them. In a regular week without a pay-per-view, there are 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of 205 Live, and 1 hour of NXT. That makes a total of 7 hours a week. On the week of a pay-per-view, you're adding 4 more hours to make it 11, and if it's a big 4 pay-per-view weekend, it's 5 hours of the pay-per-view and 3 hours of NXT TakeOver, making it a total of 15 hours. On the other hand, there's actually only 2 hours of content every week for Impact Wrestling total. That by itself does not leave a fan overwhelmed and has them wanting more instead, waiting eagerly for next week's show. The X Division was the only division of its kind for a long time on pro wrestling television. It was the perfect platform for wrestlers of a smaller size and shape than the heavyweight division to make a name for themselves, as the offense was more fast-paced and consisted of more high-flying. The division would see the likes of AJ Styles to Jay Lethal, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Trevor Lee, and even Matt Sydal win the X Division title at some point in their career. WWE has a cruiserweight division for the very same purpose. However, it took them a while to get their cruiserweight division up and running. For the longest time, 205 Live as a TV show didn't do too well, as the booking left much to be desired. And it just seemed as though whoever was in charge of it didn't care about it. However, after the exit of Enzo Amore from WWE, they decided to revamp the division and improve it considerably. Currently, 205 Live sees some of the best matches of the week put out by WWE, but they have a long way to go before they can meet the standards set by the Impact X division. While WWE is cool and they have storylines which interest the audience from time to time, a lot is dependent on how the audience perceives the star in question. No matter what storyline Apollo Crews is placed in, his bland gimmick ensures that he is far from the top star in WWE or even loved by the audience. They do not experiment with his character and try something new with him which might appeal to the fan base. When it comes to Impact, however, it's a whole nother story. The point of the matter is that no matter how bland a character gets, Impact Wrestling renews them and rejuvenates them, ensuring that the audience is interested once again. Matt Hardy was never the popular Hardy brother back in the day. However, in Impact, this actually changed when they experimented and risked a gimmick the likes of which had not been seen before. Broken Matt Hardy was the most popular character in wrestling for a large part of 2016 and drew a lot of viewers back to Impact, all because they went out of their way to allow the wrestlers freedom to experiment with their characters. The stars of WWE are handicapped by major restrictions of what they can and cannot do inside the ring. They not only have detailed and scripted promos that they need to follow to the letter, but their moveset is also severely limited. WWE does not like taking the risk of injury too often, so more often than not, the moves that are popular elsewhere but are seen to be a little risky are banned in the WWE. The scripted promos lead to most wrestlers sounding as if they've read off a script and develop no personalities of their own. However, in Impact, the restrictions are far fewer in numbers. The wrestlers are allowed to work in a manner that they are comfortable with, leading to better matches as well as better crowd participation. The promos sound believable, as it is the worker who is delivering it with only a few guidelines to follow, and it's not been written for him by some other writer backstage. A bad crowd can kill a show. This is no lie. No matter how good your show is, if the crowd is not interested in watching it, it feels bland. The audience at home senses the crowd is not into it, and in turn get the impression that the show is a bad one. With no reaction being a common theme in WWE nowadays, there is no doubt that Impact Wrestling is doing better in this regard. They have a crowd who is not bored by a long overextended show, and as a result are interested in the matches, and cheer and boo whenever the situation calls for it. In Impact Wrestling, if you manage to win the crowd over through some antics of your own, even if management had not been planning to push them before, they get a push afterwards. This is simply because Impact Wrestling recognizes who the fans want to see succeed and act accordingly. It is seen as an accomplishment for any wrestler to win over the fans and become someone they love. These people end up getting the pushes and take part in bigger matches. When it comes to WWE, if a wrestler gets over with the fans, who the company don't want to get over, then they get buried. They are handed loss after loss and even end up not being featured on the cards. The best example of this back in the day was Zack Ryder, whose popularity made it inevitable that he was handed the US title, but it seemed almost as if the company bore him a personal grudge, and he was then buried with losses, and even his on-screen girlfriend cheated on him with John Cena. Numerous other stars like the duo of Breezango and Rusev have also been victims of WWE's unwillingness to put them over. WWE is not in the pro wrestling business, but according to Vince McMahon, they are in the world of sports entertainment. And it's just the way that segments work and that stories that they tell which guide WWE. They openly admit that the matches come second. Coming from the point of view of the largest professional wrestling company in the world, this is a disturbing thought to say the least. However, this is not the case in Impact Wrestling. They too are a sports entertainment company, but their priorities in their show are different. They tell their stories to draw the audience as well, but the wrestling matches are also a part of these stories. The crowds love Impact Wrestling for a reason now. They try not to act like they are insulting the intelligence of the audience, something that WWE is very guilty of. Not only do they put up storylines which hardly seem to lead anywhere, they also have little to no continuity when it comes to following through. One of the best recent examples of this is when Shane McMahon first came back to the company. He was forced to challenge The Undertaker at WrestleMania inside Hell in a Cell, where the condition was that if he lost, he would not gain control of Monday Night Raw. However, if he won the match, he would be given control of the show. After the match was over, Undertaker emerged as the victor from their encounter. However, on the very next night of Raw, Shane was told by Vince that he could run the show anyway. If that was WWE's plan, then what was the point of the match? Angles and segments like this have led fans to no longer care about WWE and their storylines. Impact, however, has continuity and display it regularly on their programming. WWE has always been one of those companies who have rehashed the same old storylines time and time again over the years. The characters are remarkably similar to what the characters had been like a decade ago, and they keep repeating previously successful storylines in the hope that it will be a success once more in the modern era. When it comes to Impact Wrestling, they have very few segments or storylines during which the audience feels like they're seeing a repeat. They keep it creative and new with completely new stories, which are far more interesting than the same brand of wrestling that WWE so regularly puts up with the same storylines that had been there during the Attitude Era. Although they have been entertaining for the first time, they were no longer as relevant in the modern era, something WWE apparently fails to recognize. And these were 10 things Impact Wrestling does better than WWE. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more wrestling videos.